A master's or PhD thesis. It feels like climbing a mountain, right? A huge, multi-year journey that's both exciting and, let's be honest, pretty intimidating. But what if you had a map? A clear, systematic plan that turns that huge mountain into a series of manageable, walkable steps. Well, that's exactly what we're going to lay out today.
So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through the entire thesis journey, from that very first spark of an idea all the way to the final polished manuscript. We'll kick things off with that crucial pre-writing phase, then get into the nuts and bolts of drafting, tackle the art of revision, and wrap up with the core habits that really separate success from struggle. Okay, let's get started with the big picture.
You know, to tackle a project on this scale, you really need a mental model. So we're going to use a simple but super powerful three-phase framework. Just think of it like this: the blueprint, the build, and the polish. This structure is the key to turning what feels like an overwhelming marathon into a series of totally manageable sprints.
This quote really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? A thesis isn't just about what you do. It's also about what you don't do. It's about avoiding all those rabbit holes and wasted effort. And that's exactly what a solid framework gives you, a clear path forward that lets you sidestep the most common pitfalls.
So there they are, the blueprint, the build, and the polish. And look, if you take only one thing away from this entire explainer, let it be this: your success is pretty much decided in that blueprint phase. The quality of your planning long before you write a single sentence of your first chapter, that is the single greatest predictor of success.
All right, so let's dive right into that first and most critical phase, building the blueprint. I'm telling you, everything you do here, every little decision, every organizational habit is going to pay off big time for the next year or two. This is where you set yourself up for a much, much smoother journey. It all starts with this one question, and it is a big one. How in the world do you find a topic that's going to hold your interest for years, but also make a genuine contribution to the academic conversation? It's all about finding that sweet spot, that perfect intersection of your own personal passion and a real gap in the research. Finding a great topic really is a balancing act. It has to be interesting enough to get you through the tough days, but it also has to be relevant enough to capture the attention of other people. Honestly, the best way to start is to become a detective. Dive into the existing literature. Read everything you can, not just for what's already been said, but for what hasn't been said. That quiet space, that's where your contribution lives. So what if you're just staring at a blank page? Try one of these two approaches. What's so great here is the contrast. Brainstorming is all about external, kind of chaotic energy, just throwing ideas out there with no judgment. Free writing is the exact opposite. It's a quiet, internal stream of consciousness. So one is about breadth, the other about depth. Give them both a shot and see what clicks for you. Now, once you have a bunch of ideas floating around, mind mapping is how you turn that chaos into actual structure. It's a visual way to see how all your thoughts connect back to your main theme. Seriously, think of it like building guardrails for your research. It keeps you focused on your core argument and stops you from wandering down those interesting but totally irrelevant side roads. Okay, this might be the single best piece of practical advice in this whole explainer. From the very first paper you download, get organized. Create a folder system. Categorize everything. Your future self, the one who's deep in chapter 4 and desperately trying to find that one specific quote from a paper they read 6 months ago, will thank you profusely. This quote, it's every student's absolute nightmare. And you know what? It happens way more often than you think. This is why backing up your work isn't just a good habit, it is a non-negotiable rule of survival. Use the cloud. Use an external drive. Use both. A crashed hard drive should be a pain, yeah, but it should not be a catastrophe that ends your academic career. Okay, with a solid blueprint and all your research neatly organized, you are ready to start building. You've done the hard, strategic work. Now the challenge shifts to disciplined, day in, day out execution. This is where your thesis really starts to take shape. So these are the core principles for the drafting phase. And the goal is simple: clarity above all else. You are deep in the weeds, but your reader isn't. So you have to write so clearly that someone outside your specific field can still follow your logic. And hey, when you submit a draft to your supervisor, make it clean and professional. It's a sign that you respect their time and, maybe more importantly, that you respect your own work.
And now for the final transformation. This is the polishing phase. This is where you take a solid draft and turn it into a truly exceptional piece of academic work. It's where good research becomes great writing.
Okay, this is a huge distinction that trips up so many students. Revising and editing are not the same thing. You really can't do both at once. Think of it like building a house. Revising is checking the foundation and the walls, the big structure. Editing is painting and decorating. You absolutely have to fix the structure before you start picking out paint colors. Argument first, commas second.
So, how do you actually revise the big picture? Well, it starts by taking a big step back and becoming your own most critical reader. You have to ask a series of really tough questions about the overall structure and flow of your argument.
Use this checklist to put on your outsider hat. Read your work as if you have never, ever seen it before. Does the argument flow like a story, or does it just jump all over the place? Does every single paragraph, every sentence, actually serve your main thesis? If it doesn't, you have to be ruthless. The delete key is your best friend during the revision phase.
All right, finally, let's zoom out and look at the habits that really support this whole process. These aren't just tips, these are the core practices that, day after day, separate the students who thrive from those who just survive.
This right here is the golden rule. You have to understand your material so deeply that you could explain it to someone in a completely different field. If you ever find yourself hiding behind jargon or super complex sentences, that's a warning sign. True mastery is the ability to make the complex simple. Your advisor is your single most valuable resource. Seriously, don't be afraid to communicate with them. Understand what they expect, send them regular updates, and really listen to their feedback. Remember, their input isn't just about correcting your course, it's about reminding you that you're not alone on this journey.
You know, no thesis is an island. Your work is part of a much larger conversation, with your supervisor, with your peers, and with all the researchers who came before you. So embrace that dialogue. Be open to feedback. Be willing to be wrong, and remember that every piece of constructive criticism is a gift that makes your final work that much stronger.
And finally, we have a habit that weaves through every single other piece of advice we've given. A relentless focus on logic and clarity. And this isn't just a final step quality check. It's a filter you should be applying constantly. From your very first mind map to your final full stop. Ask yourself every single day, is this clear? Is this logical?
So, when you follow a clear plan and you build these habits, your thesis stops being just a requirement you have to check off. It becomes what it's meant to be, a lasting contribution, a small but really meaningful addition to the sum of human knowledge. So the question on the slide is the one you should carry with you. What will your legacy be? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.